The world isn't perfect, but it's there for us, doing the best it can, and that's what makes it so damn beautiful. Roy Mustang, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. The pursuit of anime is an aim to explore philosophical topics through the medium of anime, to create discussion and to enlighten ourselves. We are by no means professionals, and the content of this podcast is pure discussion meant to stimulate and exercise our minds and hopefully yours too. You're joined by myself, Raven, and Teddy. We are
Hey,
your hosts. Hey, Teddy. What's up, man?
hey, we're doing good, man. We're doing great. Can't wait to get into this because, I like that we're able to finally give a glimpse to people into the kind of conversations we really get into. What is just the two of us, and we're not recording because I feel like, I mean, for the people who don't know, anime is kind of how we met, right? I guess that's how we got to know each other, and
Yeah,
it's always interesting because I remember, and I'm gonna get into my little soapbox a little bit here, but I remember before, I want to say like 2010s, like in like early 2010s, 2015, when you were an anime fan online, it was really hard to find communities to discuss anime in any detail whatsoever, like, at any length, whether surface level or on a deeper level. It was really hard because you didn't have platforms like Twitter, like Discord. I mean, you had Twitter, but it wasn't really as popular as it's become in recent times, you know?
yeah,
And back then, if something really amazing happened or something that really spoke to me on a deep level happened, I witnessed in an anime, I would look for people to share that passion with. And it was hard because all you had was some janky forums with questionable ads running on there. And trying to talk to people there was really hard because it wasn't live, right? Like you didn't have a place where you just like live chatting. There were some websites, some quote unquote legal streaming websites where they had a little chat on the side. I don't know if you ever been on those sites before. That
yeah,
was way, way early, right? And you try to talk with people and you're watching something and you're also talking at the same time. So that was the closest you could get to having that live interaction, but you didn't really have anything like that on the scale of Discord. So when Discord came around, people started creating all kinds of anime focused servers. It was great because then, oh, finally, I have a place where I can just fully go off with a bunch of other people that share the same interest. And it's a double edged sword. You've been on Discord. How long have you been on Discord now?
it's been years, man. Maybe a decade about.
And I
No,
feel,
maybe not a decade.
hey, bro, has Discord been out for a decade?
Yeah, Discord's been out for like, I mean, it feels like a decade. It's felt like a long time, honestly. I
Yeah,
want to say like what 2018, 2017.
yeah, probably about when it started to be kind of relevant. I was on there in 2017, so I'm in there for like 6 years now.
Yeah, yeah. I probably came about 2018, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like you have more experience with how crazy it gets than I do. You've introduced me to some servers that were supposed to be all about anime, but oh my goodness, the amount of weird and cringe people I met on there.
uh,
Dude, I
yeah.
quit that server. You remember that one big server? I
Oh
forget.
yeah, Anime Soul Discord.
Yeah, Anime Soul. Oh Lord have mercy.
Oh, come on, Teddy.
I dude, especially when you got in the VC, do you remember like the cringe voices that people put on sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very disturbing. So I had to leave. But the point I was getting at is that
Yeah.
when, oh gosh, please don't remember the trauma. PTSD coming on hard right now. But I remember one thing that I still had trouble finding is people that I could sit down and have those deep conversations about different aspects of anime that we've all watched, where I really wanted to get into it, like break down how did this particular moment make you feel, or what this person said, or their philosophy on life, or their mindset. How does that connect to you, or how did they make you feel when they shared that?
Yeah.
Never able to really talk to people on that level until you showed up, and a couple of other people too. But out of all of them, you're the only one that I'm still talking to now, because a whole bunch of things happened, especially after COVID. But
Yeah.
you know, it was like I finally find a kindred spirit that I can share these ideas with on the same level. And I feel like I'm not just talking to a wall, because a lot of the time when you start to get a little bit in depth, all you hear is, yeah, man. Yeah, that's true.
That's crazy. That's
That's,
true,
oh,
right?
exactly. It's like, yeah, you're cooking. It's like, oh yeah, I'm cooking, but I'm not the only chef in the kitchen right now. Like, what are you, like a prep? Like, what's going on? So yeah, like I'm glad that now we, with the pursuit of anime, we're able to do that on a regular basis, share with other people, and hopefully, we also attract like-minded people, and they're able to partake into, the fun.
Yeah, and like as you were saying, like you were talking about kind of like these different discords that you experience being a part of, for better or worse. For example, the Anime Soul Discord, you're like, when you think of that, you just think cringe. You just think like, oh man, what am I getting myself into? Like, and for a lot of people, I feel like they can resonate with that, right? Where a lot of people see the anime community as kind of cringe. There's the term of weebs or weeaboos or like neats, nerds, so the anime community can be looked at as something that is just not to be taken seriously. Um, and that in turn can reflect badly on anime itself, which can then make you say, like, well, if the people who watch anime are not to be taken seriously, how seriously should I take anime? Like, why would I watch anime?
Yeah, it's a poor
You know?
reflection of the medium as a whole.
Yeah, and it just raises the overall question of like, well, there's always people saying like, oh, well, why do you still watch that? It's like it's just cartoons. Like this is made for kids. So a lot of people would kind of have this question of, can anime teach us philosophy? And of course, I mean, if you have been watching any of our videos recently, um, the answer is yes. The answer is definitely yes. And I think you agree, Teddy. I think I agree. That's why we're both here, and that's kind of what we're looking to get into today. Kind of the roots and the foundational values that this channel kind of holds. I mean, our first video, "What is Death," really, really exemplified the ways that anime can teach us philosophy because it's such a simple, I guess, lesson that we learn in One Piece, and I guess one of the first big moments of One Piece. Um, on the East Blue when they reach Chopper's Island, and Chopper has his whole story with the Doctor,
Hmm.
and then the Doctor's at gunpoint, and he basically says like, you know, a person only dies when they're forgotten. They don't die when they get physically shot and their breath leaves their lungs and their heart stops beating. They die when they're forgotten, and that is a philosophical concept. That is his philosophy on death. He believes that um, death is not a physical thing. It is almost a supernatural thing, or it's something tied to whether or not people remember you, or whether or not you're collectively remembered or cherished or revered after you
Me,
physically die.
if you ask me, to this day, it's one of the most powerful moments I've ever experienced in any story ever.
Yeah,
Like
and
the way you build up to it, and the thing is, we're just telling you guys this right now, and if you're not familiar with One Piece, you probably won't understand the gravity and how meaningful this line is. But when you get the full context of how Chopper and Dr. Hiluluk met and everything that led to that moment, it is incredibly powerful.
yeah, and it makes for a great story too. That's another thing as well. Like it's like beyond even just it being like like an example of philosophy existing in anime. It's actually just an example of like just really awesome, compelling storytelling in anime.
And also
Very,
you
yeah,
have you have to keep in mind, like, yes, you can take away a lot of philosophical lessons from anime, but that's only if you let it. What I mean
yeah,
by is that you have a lot of people, they'll watch the same anime that you and I watch, but they don't take away the same things we take away because they're watching on a fairly superficial level, right? And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, because I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with watching anything on a superficial level. All I'm saying though is that the moment you allow yourself to let your mind explore the story on a deeper level, you start to appreciate it even more than when you're just appreciating on the surface level. Because I'm not gonna sit here and act like I've always enjoyed anime to like on this level, right? When I first watched like One Piece, Naruto, all that stuff, like especially Naruto, because I feel like that was the big one, the main popular one growing up for me. It's a bunch of philosophical concepts imbued in that story that you may not necessarily pick up on right away because it's a story about ninjas, completing missions, and they have different goals, right, that they pursue. And you're thinking this, like, I'll give you an example. For people who are familiar with Naruto, Gara. Do you remember Gara?
yeah,
Remember the journey that he went through from being like a evil edgelord type of person to one of the most loving and caring people. Like, his journey is one of the most noteworthy I've seen from any characters in anime. But the thing is, when I was younger and I watched Gara, the only thought that I had in my mind was he is incredibly strong. He's raw as hell. What he did to those people in the forest during the training exam, and then what he did to Rock Lee, and then the fight with Naruto and all that stuff. In my mind, I was thinking, "Oh, dude, this guy is a menace, right?"
yeah,
But as I got older and I re-explored the story, you get his backstory, and you understand that he became a product of his environment, where all he wanted, right, was to be loved. But because he had that tail beast sealed inside of him, he became, or he was viewed as a monster, even though he wasn't one. And you see the parallel. Like, I saw there was a particular scene that happened, right, in the hospital when Lee's recovering from the fight, and and Gara pulls up to finish the job. I'm like, dude, you're way too dedicated. This is just an exam. Relax, right? It's not that serious. But when he pulls up and Shikamaru and Naruto are there and they're talking, you see Naruto. That's the first time he gets the parallel. He's like, oh no, he's alone. He didn't have anybody to support him and set him on the right path. And I feel like this was the first time that I could clearly see an animated depiction of nature versus nurture. That concept of, depending on your circumstances, a lot of it is also like your predisposition, like your natural predisposition, but depending on your circumstances, you can turn into a great individual or a monster.
yeah,
It just depends on what you're surrounded by. And with Gara, people were constantly trying to assassinate him to the point where he couldn't even sleep. Like, he had to stay awake because, like, I don't know who's gonna come for me. And the beast will also keep you awake. Versus Naruto, where he was able to sleep and everything and live his life, and eventually found Hiruka Sensei, and he had Shikamaru in his corner, and Koji and all that stuff. So he had a support system that Gara didn't have. And then you see when Naruto tries to make him come around, what he becomes. And it's just like the story of Gaara is so beautiful because then when he meets Sasuke later on, the summit of the five Kages, and he sees him, he sheds. You understand? He went from somebody who could kill people in cold blood to shedding a tear for a man who he sees his past self in.
Yeah.
Like it's so like the character work that Kishimoto did there with Gara is it's so powerful and it's so beautiful. But that's what I mean when I say that if you're only appreciating the story on the surface level, a lot of those subtleties will go over your head, right? And
Yeah.
that's where it's like, yes, you can learn a lot from a philosophical point from anime, but that's only if you let it. Because if you don't, then you're never gonna see it, and you're gonna miss out on a lot of, just mind-boggling moments that you're just like, oh my goodness. It's like this. Sorry, I'm going off a little bit, but
You're good.
I don't want to hug it the whole conversation, but basically the way I look at it is like music. You ever listen to like a rap song where the beat goes hard and the flow goes insane? So a lot of the time you're like, oh yeah, this is hitting. Like I really like what I'm hearing right now. And then one day randomly you're listening to the same song, but then you actually listen to the lyrics and how some of the schemes get worked into the beat and the flow. And you're like, oh my goodness. I've literally had shivers. Like I've had goosebumps before when that happened, where I thought I liked the song. And then I actually really listened to the lyrics and how they mesh so perfectly with the beat and with the flow. And I'm like, this is even more of a masterpiece than I thought it was in the first place. What are we doing right now? This is amazing, right? And this is the kind of experience that I wish for anybody that watches anime too, where it's fine to enjoy it at a surface level, a superficial level. But my hope is that you get to a level where you're able to see that hidden beauty in the way stories get told in manga and anime, where you're like, oh my goodness, I thought this was good, but this is different. Like this is just on a different level, you know? So yeah, that's kind of my soapbox, you know. Sorry, I was just going off the
Yeah.
minute.
Hey man. Yeah, and that just goes to show you like how much like anime can kind of shape the way you think, touch you, like kind of like affect you in many ways. And I feel like a lot of people, they look at anime and they see it as something that like there's nothing to take from it really. It's just kind of entertainment. And there's some people that even think, well, this is just for kids, so why would anybody watch this? There's no or even people that know of anime, right? They watch some anime, they even enjoy it, but they say, man, there's no philosophical value in anime. Well, we beg to differ. I mean, if music has some philosophical value, if film and even TV shows have recently been seen to hold some philosophical values, then why not anime? I mean, fundamentally, like philosophy is just basically a study of like these fundamental questions of life. You know, why we exist, our reasoning, logistic thinking, knowledge, values, morality, the human mind, the heart, the soul, language. Like that's what philosophy is. And I mean, there's tons of examples. Even here, I found a picture, a quote from this random anime that I've never seen,
Right. Right.
Subete ga F ni Naru, The Perfect Insider, where this character says, whenever I get up in the morning, I always think to myself, am I really the same person I was yesterday? And that right there alone is an example of a philosophical concept. Are we the same people that we were yesterday? Every morning when we wake up, are we still the same person or are we ever changing? Um, so yeah, there's just like something to think about right there. Even here, like just a quick Google search of philosophy and anime quotes. Here, Haikyuu, Hinata from Haikyuu. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. So there's just so many things. Even here, what is
Oh.
this? Gokoku no Brynhilder. I probably butchered that last name. People don't vanish from this world the moment they die. Their true death is come on, this is their true death is when they are forgotten by the living. This is literally just a ripoff of One Piece.
It's
So we're
not.
not even.
It's
It's
not.
not. You
I
don't think
found
so?
out. No, no, no. I found out later that One Piece isn't the only story that came up with this notion, with this idea.
Oh
It's
no. One Piece never came up with the idea, but like
yeah.
this is
I
like
mean, I see what you're saying, but like, I wouldn't call it a rip off of One Piece, because then it's giving full credit to One Piece as like the originator of that thought. No, you could say it's like a cheap version of
yeah, it
of,
feels like a very very cheap version.
of
But
what.
I'm glad you brought that up because like that's another thing that I guess like a topic that people could take from what we're saying. None of these anime are coming up with any like in
Original concepts or thoughts.
yeah, these are all things that like these are all thoughts that have pervaded throughout human history. We've always had these thoughts in some capacity or another, right? So like
Hmm.
look at this. Friendship is unnecessary. Like philosophy, like art. It has no survival value. Rather, it is one of those things that give value to survival. So there's actually a bunch to unpack there. I don't know which anime this is from, but basically, friendship, philosophy, and art are all unnecessary things. They have zero survival value to us as humans, but they are actually things that give value to our survival. So there's something like in
So
we
basically, what she's saying, right? It's
yeah,
like it's not vital to your life, but it makes life worth living,
basically yeah,
right? I couldn't agree more. It's like one of those things that is not essential to your like physiological needs, but it's essential to like your mental well-being, your emotional well-being. It's I mean, just think about how for many of us, the day-to-day grind, the day-to-day life, sometimes it can wear on you. And one place of solace that a lot of people have is in the world of fiction, in the stories, in music, in different forms of art and expression. So yeah, I'd say it's pretty essential, but it's not vital, right? I feel like that's the distinction. Because vital basically means you can't live if you're not. So we're talking like food, shelter, water, those things. But it's not one of those, but it is essential in my opinion.
yeah, definitely. And even here, look, there's no such thing as failure. Either you win or you learn. Would you agree with that, Teddy?
I'll ask you first. Do you agree?
I think so. I think in most cases that's true because even if you fail at something, let's say like you wanna pick up like girls off the street or something, right, Teddy?
Hmm.
You you can fail, right? Obviously, like you cannot score,
Yes.
you cannot get a number, but even then, that's still a learning experience because you're gonna basically be leveling up your social skills and leveling up your confidence. So even if you lose, you're technically still learning. So of course you're still failing, I guess in the word sense, but you should have this in your mind that it's not a failure. You should have in mind that you're learning. You
Hmm.
know, I mean, you can still even have in your mind that it's a failure, but the
So
most important thing to take away from it is that you should learn from every aspect, whether you win or you lose. You should still be learning. That's the way
that's
I see it.
that's a really good point. And I was gonna say, I feel like this is the right mindset to have, to not um to not hold yourself back, to not be held back by your failures, right? But the way I see it, it's like I can't tell you genuinely that I 100% agree with this mindset because I'm somebody I have unbelievably high standards for myself, and I feel like failure is something that I I can't afford. And I have a hard time tolerating failure in myself, which is funny because I tolerate failure in others because I understand that it is part of the human condition. It's just part of who we are. We are at the very base of it all. We are flawed existences. We are prone to failures, every single one of us, whether small or large. We all are prone to failure. My thing is though, I I hate it. I hate it with a passion when I fail. And that that saying I feel kind of denies that feeling for me, which I feel it doesn't just apply to me, it applies to a lot of other people too, where even at work, right? There's sometimes I fail. And of course, I rectify the situation as quickly as possible. I don't spend time in the moment thinking about it, but you best believe that after work, it's eating me up. I'm really thinking about it because I'm thinking, I I knew better than to do this. I feel like it's a difference, right? It's a difference between when you're learning something, like the example you just gave. If you're learning how to pick up a chick, right? And you fail, yeah, of course, like you're gonna learn from that and grow, and the next time you better. But what if you're a pickup expert? You know your craft. It's not often that you get said no to anymore because you've already paid the price in your amounts of failures in the past. I feel like at that point, a failure, it just feels like a failure. It doesn't feel like an opportunity to learn because you're already there. It's like the thing about it is sometimes it's not even up to you. It's just the way that it works out, where you have champions who are amazing at what they do. They're champions. Like they've won multiple titles, won multiple trophies. But sometimes even they fail, even they lose. And for them, like I just have to get right back in the saddle and do it. But there's nothing for me to learn from that because it was an instance where there was nothing else I could do. I feel like in those instances, it's like, well, there's nothing else but the failure. It's like I failed.
Well, this is the way I see it, Teddy. Like, okay, for example, in the example that we're talking about right now, both examples, either the champion or the pickup artist, right?
Yeah.
Um, if you fail, and let's say you're a master, you've let's just say theoretically that you've learned every single thing. There's literally it's impossible for you to learn more, right?
Hmm.
It's impossible to learn more about picking up girls on the street, and it's impossible for you to learn more about let's say it's boxing, right? A boxing champion, and he lost. It's impossible to learn. He lost because of maybe outside of the ring circumstances. If he failed, this is the beautiful thing about life, that there's different facets to life. So although you're a master at boxing or you're a master at picking up girls, you will never be a master at life. And that failure is still an opportunity to learn how to do what? To learn how to fail with grace, and to learn how to have patience, to learn how to pick yourself back up in different ways each time, because each failure is different. So there, to me, there's still opportunities to learn there, because for example, like take Deontay Wilder, right? He was a champion for many years, and in comes Tyson Fury, and beats him very badly, and for a time there, um, Wilder was very delusional, and he was making a lot of excuses, and he took his failure without any grace, and it seems to a lot of boxing fans that he didn't learn anything from that, at least at the time. Maybe now, that's starting to change, and maybe he's starting to learn from it now. So in that kind of sense, I could see that, yeah, maybe he doesn't have much to learn as a boxer because he's already kind of reached the pinnacle, he's kind of reached the peak, and he just met somebody that was better than him. In that case, he still has, I would say, he still has a lot to learn in boxing. Um, but either way, even just theoretically putting a hypothetical that he has learned everything there is to learn in boxing, right? He still has much to learn in the ways of falling with grace, you know? That's the way
That's
I see it.
yeah, yeah. I can see the angle you're coming at it from, but and I feel like it's a little bit different from that initial quote because the way that initial quote is framed, it's like when you're taking on an endeavor, you can either win or you can learn from that failure and how to win the next time. Where what you're talking about is learning how to deal with it, right? Which is a little bit different. Uh, so
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, you are still learning. It's a different kind of lesson. I still think that, you know, even because I'll take an example that I'm familiar with, which is tennis, where these players, the ones at the top, the ones that have won multiple ATP tournaments and multiple Grand Slams, when they lose, they've had plenty of practice dealing with it. So for them, at the end of the day, they already know like how to handle it. And you see them when they get interviewed, they just say, well, you know, I think Nadal, Rafael Nadal, he said it the best one time in an interview. He said, the thing with tennis is you whenever you step on the court, you're always giving your all, and you're hoping that your body matches your mindset and your tenacity. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you're only at 68% of what your body can do, and that's just something that comes with the sport, and you have to accept it, right? So for those people, all they're left with is the actual loss because they already know how to deal with it because they've had to deal with it in the past and they understand how it works, right? So like you're right, there's still a potential to get life lessons out of it, but I feel like sometimes when and this is not something that regular folks can understand. I feel like this only applies to people that have reached the peak of what can be achieved in any discipline, where for them it's like, yeah, all I have left now is this failure. I'll keep moving. I'll keep pushing because that's what I do. And I'm going to win again. But when the failure happens, it's all it is. It's just that. Right. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I look at it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was see, this is the thing, man. You don't want to get me started, bro. Like I'll go into this stuff. Like
Yeah.
like
Well, I mean,
any single one of these, like all these that you got pulled up right now. I'm pretty sure you could pick a random one and we go into it. It's like it's just that's the nature of the kind of conversations we have.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, and this is just another example. Like, we've already been going like about half an hour, and we'll go on for a little longer. But the thing is, you're already seeing these deep conversations we're getting into just off of these random quotes, just quotes, not even talking about stories, not even talking about character studies, not even talking about like characters actions throughout the stories, not even talking about arcs. These are just random quotes from random animes that some of which we haven't even seen before. We're just like kind of sifting through it like a quick Google search, and already there's tons of philosophical conversation to be had and delve into. So I think we've kind of shown you guys the point, which is that anime can definitely teach us philosophy, and that's just the way. Look at Payne over here. He he has a big quote here. He talks about religion, ideology, resources, land, spite, love, or just because. No matter how pathetic the reason, it's enough to start war. War will never cease to exist. Reasons can be thought up after the fact. Human nature pursues strife. So that last sentence is the big, kind of meaty, the meat and potatoes of that kind of philosophy is that human nature pursues strife. Do you think that that's true, Teddy?
As long as people have autonomy and their own way of life, their own way of thinking, I believe that, it's true to an extent because um not everybody wants the same thing. Not everybody is trying to get the exact same um fulfillment out of life. Like not
Yeah,
everybody has the exact same goals. You can kind of align, you can have a overall common goal, like everybody wants to live comfortably, everybody wants to find happiness in life and everything, but depending on who you ask, that varies, right? For some people it's having a yacht and multiple mansions across the world. For other people it's being able to provide for their families and all that. And see, even with the example I just gave you, if you get those two people in a room and you get them talking about what it means to be happy, they won't see eye to eye because their definition of happiness or what makes them happy is very different, right? It kind of leans into the same direction, but ultimately it's not exactly the same. And these people can butt heads, or they just have to agree to disagree. Like how often do you get in conversations with people and that's how it turns out? It's like we're just gonna have to agree to disagree because we're not going to see eye to eye on this. And I think, when he says human nature pursues strife, I wouldn't say necessarily that it pursues strife, but it's innate in a lot of people where if it gets triggered, it could go there. It could turn
yeah,
into strife, right? But as long as you don't poke the bear, it'll just stay asleep. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, he's correct. And of course, you always have people, right? The problem is, I feel like the seven deadly sins, which I think is kind of appropriate that you started the quote with we started the podcast with a quote from Full Metal Alchemist because it goes into it embodies it personifies us the seven deadly sins, right? But I
yeah,
feel like they're the reason why this is true. They're the reason why this quote is true because if when you break it down at the end of the day, some of the biggest wars and conflicts that have existed in human history have come because of one of those sins, whether it be greed or pride or lust or anything of that nature. It it comes from there, right? Because with everything that he's listing, like religion, ideology, resources, all that stuff, it's like with some people, they like the example of religion, right? You know that back in the day, especially with Christianity, they used to have crusades, right? Where they would go to places and try to convert people to Christianity. It's like, who are you to try and convert people and make them believe in what you choose to believe in? It takes a certain amount of like an abundant amount of pride in what you believe in to be like, I'm going to force that upon other people because I believe that that is the correct way.
yeah,
And if you don't agree with me, then we tap into wrath where I'm just going to decimate you because you're not aligning with my beliefs and my religion. Did you know, I heard recently, not recently, a few years back, I guess, there's a missionary. He went to a remote village somewhere. I don't remember if he was in Africa or somewhere, but he he was on a mission to go and convert that tribe to Christianity. And when he approached, they sent fire warning shots. I think it was either spears or arrows to send him away, as a way of saying, do not come here because whatever you're selling, we don't want it. Okay. But he insisted and he tried to go in there and he lost his life.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that
Exactly.
story.
Because that's what he's talking about. What's what Payne is talking about here, where it's like, just the, don't don't think that, like, there's ways to avoid strife. But some people, they're just so into themselves, into their own heads, that they go after it, right? They put themselves in situations where there is no other option but to go to war.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Well,
like,
Teddy,
yeah, go ahead.
like there's this kind of idea that, and I'm sure you've heard this before. A lot of people, they think that, or they say that human beings have like this innate desire to control, for like control and dominance, right? And there's even some psychologists, they say that like the desire for control may be rooted in a fear of like uncertainty. So because you're afraid of like uncertainty, you, like humans have this desire for control. And it makes sense because a lot of life is uncertain, right? We don't know why we're here on Earth. We don't know if there's a reason why we're here on Earth. We don't know what happens after death. We don't know if there's life outside of Earth. We don't know a lot of the world's history, and that leaves life itself as very uncertain. And we're kind of seeking to gain some type of control in an environment where we are not fully in control. And so think about it like from a very basic like war standpoint, right? Like, or just a very basic like life to life standpoint. Let's say you're like in the middle of like 10,000 BC and you have your farm and you're growing up. You're like a young man growing up and you have your childhood friend who you're expecting to marry, freaking Wendy, and Jake down the block ends up actually marrying Wendy instead of you, and then you're mad. You end up grabbing a club and going and bonking Jake over the head, and then oh whoops, now his whole family's involved. They're after you. Now your family's involved. They're after you. All because you couldn't get Wendy. Like there's all types of ways that war can start and strife can start and discord can be uprooted from within us. And like Payne is saying, there's so many like pathetic reasons that it begins. It's a lot of times it's over religion, like you stated with the Crusades. Sometimes it's over just mere ideology. A lot of times we're seeing nowadays, you look on social media, all types of fights are happening just because of love. Oh, I caught you talking to my girl on Instagram. And you pull up on the dude and you start fighting on Instagram live. And for what? It's
Dude,
just
it doesn't even need to go that deep. You just go in the comment section of any post that is remotely controversial in any way, shape, or form.
yeah.
You will see absolute chaos and pandemonium. Like, people,
Oh, dude,
oh
I
man.
went on this. I went on this comment section once, and I saw this dude. Like they were just talking boxing, and the dude was like, "Hey, man, I think that so and so was like the best boxer ever," and then the other dude was like, "Oh no, he was a hack. He was a scrub. Nobody likes him." And so the other dude simply like stated his points as to why. Like he's like, "Oh well, I mean, I don't see why that's the case though. He beat this many champions. He did this and that in his career." He had this illustrious career. And then the other guy just responds with like, "Hey man, listen, you better watch what you're saying." Or and he mentioned like his grandmother or something like, you wouldn't want your grandmother to turn up. You know what I'm saying, Teddy? Like basically,
Like,
86.
oh no.
Yeah, like you wouldn't want her to turn up like deceased, unalived, like. And I saw that and I was like, what the hell? Like,
Like,
how do you
how did he
jump from?
escalate so quickly?
Yeah, and he just kept saying it too. Like the other guy, like had the same reaction where he was like, "What the hell did you just say?" And then the other guy was just like, "Oh, yeah, you heard me." And like he was just laughing and like kept commenting it over and over again about the guy's grandma. And like I don't know if they knew each other in real life, But there's a lot, man. There's a lot of like just kind of, it's almost as if Payne says it seems as if human nature sometimes just pursues strife. Like people get a kick out of it. Like they
And
can't stay away from
right,
chaos.
sometimes you have to be the bigger person to diffuse a situation. So check
Mm,
this out.
yeah.
This is funny too because it kind of it's kind of anime related. So I'm pretty sure you've heard by now the trailer for the One Piece live action is dropped.
Oh
People
shoot.
had their thoughts, reactions, opinions about it.
Yeah.
And um I was in a live stream yesterday. Well, not in it, I was like, one of the watchers, the viewers. And um in the live chat, somebody said that their 60-year-old mother watched the trailer for the One Piece live action, and she's actually excited and looking forward to it. Right.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this is online. The thing about One Piece, it's a very particular kind of story. It's weird, it's wonky in its own unique ways. And so for a 60-year-old mother to be into that, I told him, like, you have to understand that I'm going to be a little bit skeptical about it because you're saying something on the internet like that. To me, it just sounds like you're trying to imply that the live action trailer was actually really good to the point that even a 60-year-old mother who's not even into One Piece like that is looking forward to that. Right. And that's all I said. I'm like, you're gonna have to excuse me if I don't believe you, because this guy, and he was, and what was funny is that the guy that I addressed was cool about it. He was like, yeah, no, I get that. I understand. Like, of course it happened, but I don't have any way of proving it to you or showing it to you. So it makes sense that you're skeptical because that's just the nature of interactions online. Because you can say anything online. Nobody's is gonna ask you to prove it, or like, nobody's that invested. So you just say something, it's either people believe you or they don't. A lot of the time, somebody injected themselves into inserted. I was looking for the actual term. Inserted themselves into that conversation. It was like, uh, just because you're a liar, don't project that on other people. And I'm like, now see, this is how you're gonna make me get mean and aggressive, because now you're just calling me out my name saying I'm a liar and that's why I think that person is lying. So I had to break the whole thing down, like, no, you have to understand, this is this is the place that I'm coming from. I've been online for a very long time, so I know that people will say certain things just to say them because they know that they don't have to prove anything, they can just say it, and it'll just go over well. So, or not, so it just depends, but they can just say whatever. So I was trying to explain that to him, and I ain't gonna lie, I got a little bit petty because I told him, hey, calm down there, buddy. It's not that serious, right? I was a touch condescending, but if you're going to call me a liar off of a comment that I made that had nothing to do with it whatsoever, I'm going to go there a little bit with you. But like I said, right, you have to be the bigger person and diffuse the situation because it's easy. I don't know about you. I feel like personally, anger is one of the easiest emotions to give into. Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
somebody gets you to a place where you're starting to get angry, it is very easy to just lean into that and go crazy. And that's why a lot of the time I just have to take a minute. And usually by the time I've taken that minute, I realize the whole thing was so silly and I just walk away. Right. But it takes that conscious thought to be like, I'm not gonna be that person, because if I am that person, it's not going to blow over well. Like even at work right now, I'm the peacemaker in a lot of ways because I see so many situations where things can get out of control. But you got to be the bigger man. Be like, no, listen, this is not going to help you, me, anybody around here. It's only going to affect our work. Let's just take deep breaths, relax, and walk away from it. So, yeah,
Yeah, man.
I feel
Yeah.
like strife is yeah, it exists in all of us. We're all capable of it. You just have to learn to diffuse it.
Honestly, this question alone, like human nature pursues strife, could be its own video. Like, so, oh man, this was just a great video, and I think that this alone exemplifies kind of the point of the video of like how anime teaches us philosophy, you know? And we could definitely get into it more in another video if we have to, but I think this was a great starting point to kind of go a bit deeper into what our channel is all about even more, because I know it is a very not very esoteric, but it is a bit of an esoteric kind of niche that we're hitting, where we're looking at anime through a philosophical lens, and we're kind of just having fun with it in a podcast format. And for a lot of people, that might be just a bit hard to grasp. So we just wanted to give you a bit of a more clear insight into how we actually think, what we're actually talking about, and hopefully this video was helpful with that. But yeah, with that said, do you have any like kind of last points you want to hit? Last kind of words for the people?
I mean, kind of like I said at the beginning, um, this is not in any way an attempt from us to come across as pompous or full of ourselves that we're able to have these kinds of conversations. No, this is just like over time, being longtime anime fans, we've come to realize like the beauty of that medium of storytelling and all the philosophical concepts and lessons that you can take away from them. So I don't want people to come here and think that we're just being pretentious with these conversations because that's not the goal, right? That's not what we're
Yeah,
trying to accomplish here. It's just that we see this side of anime and we want to um show what we see to other people and hopefully they can join us, right? They can meet us there. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with enjoying what you like on a superficial level. I'm as much a fan of this deep conversation as I am of all the hype conversations we were talking about, Dragon Ball Z or Super or the current direction of the One Piece anime where everything is like really bombastic and in your face, where there's not much to break down. It's just, a good easy time. Like it's not literally not that deep. So I enjoyed that too. Don't get it twisted. It's just that, every once in a while I would like to get down here, we break out you can't see us right now, but we got, tea and biscuits, English style,
yeah,
dipping on some tea and talking about this stuff. So, hopefully you can pull up your tea and your biscuits and join us on this fun. So
yeah, for sure. Like, I think to piggyback off of that, like, definitely, I think I've said it before too. We don't want to come off as preachy at all with these videos. We're just having conversation and just kind of exploring our thoughts, exploring kind of these thoughts that we see in anime, and building a discussion around it. And of course, I definitely do plan to have uh, a few more informational videos here and there, kind of like we did with the Carl Jung format, where we kind of bring some actual like real examples. But at the heart of what the channel is all about, we're always just going to have conversations. We're not here to write essays and to like have these like almost theological or like Teddy said, scholarly lectures. It's not a lecture in any sense of the
because
word,
if we
right?
were, we wouldn't be doing lives. We would just be recording videos and posting them like that. Because with
Yeah,
this, we're hoping that we're gonna get to a point where we're having live interactions with people.
yeah,
You know, so
yeah, exactly. So with that, man, it was a great video. Thanks for joining me today, Teddy, and thanks for everybody who's watching after the fact. This was the Pursuit of Anime on how anime teaches us philosophy. We're gonna come back to you really soon next week with another great one, and we have some great ideas coming down the pipeline. So definitely get excited because we're definitely excited. So with that, it is time to end the broadcast. We are out, you guys. Peace.
Peace.